Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Here's a question. Why are we helping Saudi Arabia murder and starve Yemenis? Why are we assisting them in depriving Yemenis of medicine? Meaning there's a cholera epidemic right now in Yemen that is expected to reach the millionth case. Not to mention the people are dying of starvation with a military tactic that Saudi Arabia decided that they were going to use to starve Yemenis. Not to mention the bombings, the murders. Why on earth is the United States leveraging its technical acumen and the bravery of the American citizens to engage in a campaign of murder and starvation? Is that really what we, meaning when people decide they want to join the military, their idealistic pursuits, is that really what they get into the military thinking that they will be doing and thinking that that's their job? I would say not. I would say that the American public itself would be roundly against what is taking place in Yemen and roundly against the fact that the United States is involved helping a country that was instrumental in bombing us on 9/11 and instrumental in spreading terrorism throughout the world to also bomb and starve and murder Yemenis. 20 killed in a recent airstrike. Let's take a look. 20 killed in Yemen by a Saudi-led coalition airstrike. "20 people were killed in an airstrike led by Saudi-led military coalition in southwest Yemen on Friday," residents said. The air attack hit a vehicle transporting 20 passengers south of Tias province. Locals told Reuters 6 bodies have been identified, but the rest were charred beyond recognition. A spokesman for the Saudi-led coalition said it would investigate the report but declined to comment further. "We take this report very seriously." Did you take the other 1,000 reports very seriously? Did you? I mean, it seems that you kill a lot of civilians. It seems that you kill a whole shitload of civilians, to put it in scientific terms. So, are you taking this case seriously, but you didn't take the last cases seriously? I don't think you're taking these cases seriously at all. I think you're bombing and murdering civilians. I understand that you're telling me that that's not what you're doing, but I can look at the objective goddamn reality and see that you're murdering civilians. Reuters reads this report, or goes with this report, as if it's two sides fighting a war. It's not two sides fighting a war. It's a government that's been changed, and it's Saudi Arabia wanting to change the government back. And in the pursuit of changing that government back, have ceded to starving, literally, as a military tactic, Yemenis. There's a cholera epidemic that is going gangbusters throughout Yemen. I think it's like almost at a millionth case. And bombings. You've instituted a policy of starving and murdering and using illness to attack the Yemen population, many of which are civilians, the majority of which being civilians. I don't think they give two shits about the fact that it's civilians that are being killed in this. And my point in this more so goes to the United States' assistance in these policies of bombing and starving and using illness in order to attack and undermine Yemen government. Pictures make the case better than me saying it. Bombings have a reality. Yes, those are bodies. It's one thing for me to say there's been a bombing. Fact is, we don't know what that means. We know that there's an explosion, but we understand this in abstract terms. What does it mean to have something go off with thunderous? It's almost like this unimaginable explosion going off in your eardrums, exploding your eardrums. What does it mean to walk into an area where you have bodies strewn about the ground being charred by the bomb strikes? I understand that the United States has this big deal about people getting their heads chopped off. Not so much when Saudi Arabia is doing the head chopping, but in most cases, in other cases, they hate this idea of people head chops off. Guess what? Bombs do worse. Bombs do worse. We've been assisting Saudi Arabia murder Yemenis for the past 2 years, if not more. There have been 10,000 people who have died in this war. And again, to call it a war pretends as if they're two equal sides. The United States is giving Saudi Arabia $1 billion in weapons deals. Yemen is literally, not hyperbole, one of the poorest nations in the world. One is getting $1 billion in weapons deals. The other one is the poorest nations in the world. And that $1 billion in weapons deals is beating the shit out of the other party, smashing their head to the ground over and over and over again, because it wants to change the government back, using terrorism in order to change the government back to something that it likes a little bit better. This is what's taking place in Yemen. This is us assisting them in doing that. Let's be clear. Establishment sources. The United States' role in the Yemen crisis. In addition to selling a vast arsenal of weapons to Saudi Arabia, our government's military gave logistical guidance to Saudi military headquarters in Riyadh and continues to provide intelligence to Saudi defense officials and area refueling during bombing runs. The Saudi-led coalition could not have conducted the 2.5 years of bombing without the support of our military. In recent years, our military has carried out innumerable raids in the terrorist groups Al-Qaeda and Yemen, but Al-Qaeda and Islamic State have taken advantage of the Saudi-led campaign to seize territory and expand their activities in the Arabian Peninsula. The one I'm getting at here is that point, that Saudi Arabia would not have been able to carry out these bombings and this particular campaign of terror that they've been waging on Yemen without our help. And again, this campaign is Saudi tries to starve Yemen into submission. Yemen's cholera outbreak, now the worst in the history as the millionth case looms. This is weaponizing illness, weaponizing starvation, for terrorist pursuits of changing the government back to something that it prefers a bit more. My case in this is very simple and straightforward. Why on earth are we in Yemen? And I don't ask that question for the hardened politicians who have their particular political positions. I understand the oil for gas, this idea of a Quincy pact that we made. I'm asking the American public, why on earth are we leveraging our tax dollars? Why are we leveraging our skill and political acumen to this terroristic regime, this theocratic regime that's in Saudi Arabia, and using our military know-how to assist them in starving and murdering and weaponizing illness in Yemen? They are wholesale murdering civilians. Why are we assisting them on this? I ask that question for you in hopes that you ask that question to your political leaders, and that this creates somewhat of an uproar that, oh my God, I don't want my son, my daughter, my nephew, I don't want myself in this military to be using this military in the service of, I'm saying this poorly, but using our military in pursuits of the Saudi Arabia government in this way. This is ghastly, this is horrific, and this needs to stop. This needs to stop now. This needs to stop now. I'm putting the articles at the bottom so you can see it for yourself. This is absolutely ghastly. And I'm using Washington Post. I'm using these mainstream media narratives in order to make the point that even the mainstream media looks at this and says, oh my God, we as a United States should not be involved in this conflict in this way. This is horrendous. I'll leave it at that. I'll put the articles at the bottom so you can see for yourself. We are murdering and starving Yemenis, assisting the Saudi Arabian government in murdering and starving Yemenis. And even one extra gross case, weaponizing illness in pursuit of an unwinnable goal, as one of the people put it in the article, of changing their government to something that we ourselves prefer. Is that really the point of the United States military? Is it constitutional? Here's another question. Is it legal for us to be doing this? And beyond whether it's illegal, is it ethical? Is it moral? And should we be doing it just from a... There are multiple points, but should we be doing it? I guess is a question I want to put forward. My answer to that is no, we shouldn't be doing it. I'm asking that question to the larger American public in hopes that the politicians themselves get further involved in this and pull these guys back from the reins. We should not be doing this. Even if you want to make the case of the oil for gas pact, this idea of protection, this doesn't apply. This is wholesale murder. This doesn't apply. America needs to pull its support from this. So I'll leave it at that. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, Patreon. Thanks, guys.